Hello and welcome to the 43rd episode of When I Was Your Age, a podcast celebrating the careers, callings, and creativity of some friends of mine. I'm your host, Roland Parker, and as always, it's a joy, a pleasure, and a treat to have you here. Today's guest is Elizabeth Coleman. Sorry for jump scaring with the government name. She has gone by many. I know her as Bubs, but we'll get started with that here soon. But before we bring her into the stream, I do have a little bit of housekeeping as always. Make sure that you follow the Instagram at WIWYA pod so you can stay up to date on posts and when new episodes are coming out and things like that. And we are currently at 1,571 followers, which is awesome. I really appreciate the support there. If you have made your way here for the first time, welcome. Glad to have you. Make sure that you give us a follow. You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or if you'd rather watch the episodes, you can subscribe on YouTube as well. And Spotify has a video feature too there, which is pretty neat. You can find the links to all of those places in the link tree in the Instagram bio. And that's about all that I've got. So we'll go ahead and bring Elizabeth into the stream. Elizabeth,
Hey.
how are you doing?
Great, and I don't think I've ever heard you call me Elizabeth.
Yeah, I don't like it. You're in my phone as Bubs still. I did change your last name, so it's Bubs Coleman. So sometimes I can't find your contact as easily.
Should I change my name legally to Bubs Coleman?
Bubs Coleman. But Bubs Coleman sounds like a 1930s like MLB player.
It kind of does.
Yeah, it's like throwing like a no-hitter off of like 12 beers and like 36 hot dogs.
Or like someone's kind of sleazy uncle, you know? Yeah. I don't know which ones. Yeah.
I love that. Well, if you guys aren't already, make sure that you follow Elizabeth or Bubs on Instagram. You can find her there in on the handle that we've got up on the screen, and we'll add it in the description of the episode as well, so you can find that. Have you ever had any like funky or weird or funny usernames for other platforms or current ones? So tell me about that.
So actually, no. Elizabeth MJ something has always been like any username I've ever had. And I can thank my dad for that because when I was 10, he helped me make my first email address. And at the time we had a cat named Baby Cat, RIP. But I wanted my email username to be babycatlover456, and he shut that down really fast. So it was Elizabeth.mje, Edwards being my maiden name. And so that's just been any like handle I've ever had has just been very Elizabeth MJ something. Now it's nice. MJC because of Coleman, but nice. Nothing crazy, thankfully. I know people have stuff like, Ice Skate Lover, 24, but
yeah, like your first email that you're like logging into Webkins with or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. I did have some Webkin stuff like, usernames like Baby Cat Lover.
Do you think that you could get back into Webkins now?
You know what? Honestly, I haven't tried. You know what I still have access to and who tells me happy birthday every single year? It's Pixie Hollow. From Disney.
I don't know that one.
I don't know that you would know this, but
yeah,
with my Gen Z girls out there, we used to play Pixie Hollow. It's like an interactive fairy game.
Nice.
From my childhood.
Okay. I feel like if I tried really hard, I could pull up like a mental image of it, like ads for it on like Disney Channel and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was Webkins and I was Club Penguin were like the ones that I played. And then like if it was like at school for like downtime and stuff, but then like Pop Tropica was like
Pop Tropica I played all the time. That just totally unlocked a memory. We would be like, it was girlsgotgames.com or Pop Tropica that we would get access to. It was crazy.
Yep. So good. Love that. Well, I've got some questions that we like to ask everybody, kind of give us a better picture of who you are, and we'll dive into those. Where are you from and where do you currently live?
I am from Knoxville, Tennessee. I grew up there and I currently live in Dallas, Texas.
Love it.
Well, a suburb of Dallas, Texas. If anybody is from Dallas listening to this and they're going to be like, what part of Dallas? I don't live in Dallas proper. I live like 15 minutes west of Dallas proper.
Yeah, I feel like Dallas and Atlanta are very similar in that way that like if you're not from Dallas, like you would just accept it at face value. But if
Yes.
you're like in Dallas, like someone's gonna check you of
Mhm.
like oh really, like where specifically, like and then
And
they'll
I don't live in the middle of uptown anymore, but
yeah
semantics.
yeah. What do you do?
I work for Frito-Lay, which is a part of PepsiCo, and do you want to get into like my whole job vibe or
Sure.
just my title? Okay, so I am in the supply chain space. I am the dips platform owner. So essentially I manage all like dip production across the US, and we have 9 dip suppliers. It's all produced externally. So I manage the production schedules, I manage interactions with our suppliers, and all that fun stuff. So
Nice. Well, I'm excited to kind of unpack that a little
yeah.
further later on. What piece of media are you currently enjoying? Is it a book, podcast, music, TV show? I have one really good guess that I feel like I it's a because my wife's going through it as well. She's
Yeah.
watching Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
Tis the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
She and I are
it's
pretty synced up on the same episodes right now. So
okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I who's your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character?
In Gilmore Girls, gosh, it always ebbs and flows. I think if you would have asked like 13-year-old me, I would have had a very different answer. I probably would have said Rory's my favorite character. But current me, honestly, it might be like Emily. I don't know. I just like
Oh,
that's
interesting.
such a hot take. I just think that she is so villainized and she does a lot wrong, but she just like doesn't she loves the girls and she doesn't know how to express her love.
Yeah.
And actually, hang on. Wait, it might be Luke.
Mhm. What's kinda interesting, like, for if you're watching the show, like, at almost any point, you could have different feelings about
Yes.
any of the characters,
Mhm.
like, uh, spoilers, but, like, when it like, I, for the most part, like Luke,
Mhm.
except for when he doesn't reveal that he has a daughter to
Yes.
Lorelai, and
Yes.
and,
Terrible.
like, it's a weird spot for him to be in for
Mhm.
sure, but I think he was in the wrong.
Yes.
I think Luke is, like, one of the better characters
Yes.
in the show, as maybe aside from,
Mhm.
like Suki and Jackson,
Yes.
yeah, but, like, it's if you were to pick someone not Luke for Lorelai to have, like, ended up with, who is that to you? Because for me, like, the weird answer, but I think the right answer is Max.
I was gonna say Max, but at the same time, like I think the safe answer is Max.
Yeah,
The like it it probably should have always been them as Christopher, but it could never be Christopher.
could never be Christopher.
It could never be Christopher.
I didn't really trust him as far as I could throw him.
I didn't either, and I think that they could have maybe made it work, had like say that they had not gotten pregnant, at 16. I think that they were so compatible. I think they could have made it work, but like I just think life had other, you know, like
Yeah,
paths to take them down. But I think Max would have been the safest answer, but it could never be Max because it's too safe,
yeah,
you know?
sure, and it's much too early on for a show
Yeah.
that's, like, 6 or
And then
7
it's like in
seasons.
game, and then what? She just like has a husband and then it's boring, you know?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Very true, very true. Well, this has turned into a Gilmore Girls podcast.
Actually, yeah. Change the
We'll be
name.
doing a deep dive on each episode, string this out for a couple
I
of
would
years.
love that. I've seen it
Yeah,
so many times.
yeah. Is that, like, your number one, like, rewatched show?
I think so. It's just something September 1st hits and something like just hits like my body and it's like I've Pavloved myself into like automatically needing to watch Gilmore Girls.
Mhm.
I will say as I've gotten older, my absolute 100% least favorite plot in the show is that not to continue making this a Gilmore Girls
Oh,
podcast, I just
please
have
go
to
on.
make this known. My opinion on the matter is that they did Lane so dirty by like having her just end up with Zach, who kind of just sucks.
Mm,
Like he's just like he means well, but like all of her big dreams to be like a rock star and a music aficionado and all this stuff are just crushed because she just ends up with this kind of dumb guy and gets stuck in Stars Hollow and like doesn't get to be a rock star. She kind of does for a little bit, but then she's just a mom, and I just feel like she could have been everything, and then she just settles. And I feel like they just could have done so much more with her character, and that's a hill I'll die on. I don't really have a huge problem with Zach. I think he's a nice guy, but I think she should have ended up with that other guy whose name I can't remember, who like moved away. He got like actual famous, so they
I can't remember.
But that guy, Matt. Yeah. I don't know his name, but
sure.
That's my favorite or least favorite plot point in the entire show.
Yeah.
So
sounds good. I can't wait to run into it.
Oh, did I ruin it for you? Have you not?
No. Well, here's the thing: is like Tabby like watches them, at like her clip. So like I'm usually not seeing a lot of these episodes all the way through, and I've never watched it like episode by episode or like all the way through. So I've seen many plot points like multiple times over, but there are still some episodes that like I haven't seen all of. So like I'll find myself asking, I'm like, wait, where are we at with all this?
Yes. No, Holland will come home, my husband, for those that don't know. Holland will come home and I'll be on like one episode, and then she's like, wait, I thought Lorelai was with Christopher. And I'm like, no, she's with Luke now. And then he's like, since when? And I was like, since 6 episodes ago. Keep up, King.
Yeah, we are kindred spirits in that way. We want totally relate. That's where I'm at with that. Okay. Let's anything besides Gilmore Girls, because it's the season we observe that tradition. Anything kind of independent of that knee-jerk reaction, like my people call.
Yes. So I have recently really gotten into like fantasy novels, which all of the popular like book talk novels. Sure. I did not think that I would ever have any interest in reading those, but then I read the ACOTAR series and it just sucked me in, and I've been eating it up since. It's something about like they're so like some of them are just so stupidly written, like they're such like dumb concepts, but something about them is just so good. I would never have read series so fast. I did the ACOTAR to the Throne of Glass pipeline, and Throne of Glass blew me out of the water. That whole series is so good, genuinely life-changing. And then I just finished the Fourth Wing, the 2 books in Fourth Wing, which is an ongoing series. The rest of the books aren't out yet. Like all of these has just like opened up a new category of books for me that I didn't know I needed. And I usually am like I reread Harry Potter like once a year. So it's like as fantasy as I get.
Yeah.
And typically I read like murder mysteries or like whodunit books and or like, Emily Henry, like enemies to lovers kind of vibes. So this has just opened up. It's a whole new ballgame for me reading a bunch of these books. And I do feel kind of lame saying that I'm very into these, but I just can't help it. They're so good. They're so stupid and they're so good.
Yeah, no, I get you there. I tried to read Fourth Wing, and I had to close it up. I couldn't make it work.
Like can't even like I try to explain the plots to Holland, and he's just like, You're kidding.
You're be so for real. Yeah.
Be so for real.
Just
dragons and fairies and all the fun stuff. So he's missing out.
Missing out. What is something you'd consider a luxurious necessity?
Luxurious necessity. Ooh.
Yeah. If you need examples or kind of some touch points to help brainstorm, let me know.
Trying to think. Luxurious necessity.
I kind of think of it as something that is integrated into your routine. Like you wouldn't really want to give it up, but you technically could live without. What is that something to you?
Gosh, I'm like blanking on everything that I own right now. Luxurious necessity.
I usually go for like coffee as like a good
that is kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like having like a nice like Stoke cold brew kind of vibe. Like I could easily make a pot of coffee or something, but I like to have my nice coffee and my nice creamers. That probably is a luxurious necessity. My first kind of thought was social media, but I don't know that that's luxurious and it shouldn't be a necessity, but that was my first thought.
Yeah. Any particular maybe avenue for like social media that's like kind of come out as the necessity, like any like kind of thing that is punching up in the algorithm that's the thing that you gravitate to?
I love my Instagram reels. I love I think it's just I love I'm on like the DIY like furniture flipping side,
Ooh,
house home renovation side
nice.
of Instagram. And I don't own a home to flip, nor do I have furniture to flip, but I just find it very interesting and fascinating. And one day I will implement all of these ideas when I do own a home.
Yeah, 100%. Those are very enthralling. I feel very similarly about like recipes and like
Oh, yeah.
especially like
Oh, I
the
have
all
so many recipes bookmarked.
yeah, like the butternut bakery and
Mm,
like the um all of those kind of the
yeah.
folks like who
Mhm.
really pop out for the fall season stuff too. Yeah, 100%. Do you have any bits that you're doing?
Bits that I'm doing,
Yeah, bits.
bits. Um, this weekend I was at a tailgate and I was kind of doing a bit. It was literally like the seventh circle of hell. It was so hot. We were in Oklahoma or Norman for the OU Tennessee game, and I've never been so hot and so sweaty in my life. But a little bit that I was doing is I was going around asking people if they had a sweatshirt because I was just freezing, lightening the mood a little bit.
Nice.
That's a recent bit that I was doing. I feel like my bits change. I don't know that
Yeah,
I've
they're
been doing.
cyclical.
Yeah, they're cyclical. So I think of a bit, it kind of happens, like, I use it for a couple days. I will say one thing that has surprised me about marriage is like the bits that occur between the hours of like 9 to 11 p.m. Like we are at
Okay.
our absolute funniest during those times. We have these crazy like inside jokes that always come out in like that time period. I couldn't even tell you these bits. I just know that from like 9 to 11, we are typically like cackling, laughing at just like something silly. And then that bit sticks for a little while and we go
Nice.
with that. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Next question here is a fun one because we compile all the answers into a playlist. So you can go find that in the link tree. It's called uh, WIWYA, and then it's like an eagle, and then like a rah, like a screech, and then the American flag. But the question is, if you were able to replace the national anthem with any song on your playlist, what would that be? And tell me a little bit about that.
You know what? My first thought was So What by Pink
Mm,
because I just love that song. I think it's such a fun song to just scream. And it can be like I guess it could be like an American like pump up anthem, like So What, I'm still a rock star. I got my rock moves, I don't need you. Like screw you, British
nice.
people.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I think that should totally replace it.
boom. I love it. Well, we have that added to the playlist. You can go find it. There is what it is called on the Spotify playlist.
I
So
love that.
we've got 3 people who have followed it and who have it saved.
And I will
So
be the fourth.
and and Bubby's going to be the 4th. We really appreciate it. We have 3 hours and 11 minutes of new national anthem
I
content
cannot wait.
on there. And then last question is, how do we know each other?
Oh my gosh. So we go way back, actually. I met Roland when I was a senior in high school because my sister was dating him. Was I a senior? Yeah, you were a
Yeah.
freshman.
Mhm.
He's my brother-in-law. And that's all she wrote, really. When did we first meet? I came sometime in the fall of freshman year.
Yeah. I don't know if I could place it exactly. It was like that first semester. I
Mhm.
remember that much. But
I feel like I used to come hang out at her dorm.
Yeah, I think there were a couple times that you came and like stayed
Mhm.
with her and like we all hung out, but I don't know, just like in the fall probably.
Mhm.
Um,
I remember you were running for class president at the time.
yeah,
I like significantly remember you were carrying a box of vote for Roland t-shirts as a
yes.
nod to vote for Pedro.
Mhm.
Funny. Still never seen that movie, but I get the general reference.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a I'm not gonna be the person that tells you like, "Oh, it's
You
you
have
have
to
to
see
s"
it.
that's a no, you can go without it.
Okay.
But it is a good movie. It's
Yeah.
culturally significant. You
Okay.
maybe
Good to know.
should, but you
Yeah.
don't have to. Um, yeah, no, that's funny. That was a yeah, very formative time
Mhm.
in me and Tabby's
How
relationship.
long that was my senior year of high school, so that would have been
2015.
yeah. So that's a billion years ago. 9
Yeah,
years. I've
it's
known you for 9 years.
yep, yep, we've known each other for 9 years,
That's crazy.
and
Do you
yeah,
feel like my brother?
yeah, yeah, 100%. I haven't, obviously didn't have, like, sisters before, but
Mhm.
now I feel
I didn't
that
have a
way.
brother.
It didn't completely I don't know if there's, like, any, like, one point that I could say, like, "Oh, this is when I felt like we were siblings, like, per se,"
I
but
think that
I'm
moment for
very,
me.
very fortunate to have that relationship with you and Samantha
Mhm.
in that, like, I do feel like we're we have that kind of relationship.
Nice little family vibe. I
Yeah.
felt like you were my brother when, I surprised to live with you and Tabby for a month before I moved to Texas, and she didn't tell you, so
That definitely accelerated the
and it was during
um,
COVID, so that was nice.
yeah,
Roommates.
yep, yep. So, yeah, so to kinda further belabor this story, you graduated, and then,
Mhm.
like, Tabby tells me, like, "Oh, uh, Bubs is, like, coming over, she's gonna stay with us." I was like, "Oh, yeah, no, that's exciting," and then, like, I see her, I'm like, "She's got a lot of stuff for to be staying with us." And I was like, "Tabby, how long is she staying here?" She's like, "Oh, she's gonna live with us, like, for the summer, basically."
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, so cool."
Awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it turned out great.
Yeah. It was
Uh,
so fun.
it was so much fun.
Mhm.
All right. Well, let's dive into a little bit of your story and what it is that you do. But I'd love to know, what do you feel like is the starting point of like where you are now? How far back could you draw a line to being kind of set on the path to where you are now, if that makes sense?
Like, career-wise or life-wise?
Yeah, like what's the you can do life wise. It doesn't have to be career too. But like, what was maybe the earliest diversion or inflection point that
Mhm.
kind of like puts you on this path that where you've ended up now?
Yeah, so I would say when I was a freshman in college, my major initially was kinesiology, and I wanted to be a physical therapist. And I was fortunate enough to have a friend whose dad owned a physical therapy practice. And for that summer, I needed a job, or that semester, fall semester of my freshman year, I needed a job anyway. And he let me come work at his clinic as a PT tech. So I was working like assisting a bunch of physical therapists. I was doing ice packs. I was helping patients do their warm ups and things like that. And it was really, really cool to have that hands on experience. And it gave me a lot of insight to realize that that wasn't something that I wanted to do long term. Um, I enjoyed it and I think it's a great practice, but it's just something where I felt like it was a little too monotonous for me. And I felt like it was going to silo me too much without me being super passionate about it. And I had a friend that I went to college with, or high school with, and college, but she was majoring in supply chain management. And when she was explaining it to me, it just sounded kind of interesting. And I liked the fact that it opened up like a lot of categories of work, because everything has a supply chain.
Sure.
And I've always had kind of a like more of an analytical brain. Um, in love, like trying to figure things out and understand things, which is all that logistics is. And so I decided to change my major to supply chain management. I wasted a lot of time in chemistry classes, but I sucked at that. That was another reason. I did not say that. I also was horrible at chemistry. I just didn't have the brain for it, all of that kind of stuff. So while I liked doing the physical work, I didn't like the idea that for the next 6 years I would be doing school to just kind of get to the same point that I was now, and I was able to be really hands-on at this physical therapy office. So if I had not had that hands-on experience, I probably would have stuck through because I wouldn't have seen what the end result would have been.
Sure.
So I think that was the biggest like pivotal moment, which is why I'm a big advocate for like hands-on work experiences and like early on in your college career, because I think you ask an 18-year-old what they want to do with the rest of their lives, and then they have to do that for the rest of their lives. And you have no idea like what your life is actually going to end up looking like. So I ended up switching to supply chain, like I said. So the next 4 years I was in business classes and all of that. And then my junior year, my fall of junior year, I went to the supply chain career fair. And honestly, just for a class, I didn't really know what I was going in for. And I ran into a woman who works for PepsiCo. And she was telling me all about it. And she worked at the headquarters in Dallas. And she and I really hit it off, and we ended up having some mutual connections, and I interviewed for the position. And then I got it. So I moved to Dallas for a summer as an intern, and then they hired me to come back on full time. And then I moved officially to Dallas in 2020 during COVID, which was insane. So I think a really pivotal moment was freshman year when I was like, I don't want to be a physical therapist. And then I'm on my path. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, and I totally agree with you too, that having the hands-on experience to just can really help you identify like, oh, this is not for me, or your flip side, like this is like for me. Like I want this for sure. But yeah, just as valuable, I think, as identifying the things that you want to do is, figuring out what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
That's great. So big piece that we've mentioned already is is COVID and how that kind of impacted everything. So you graduate in 2020, which that's already challenges in and of itself. You're moving to different state, different city, and logistics and supply chain are really kind of struggling and having a hard time at that moment. I specifically remember a lot of the conversations that I was not a part of, but like could hear people like saying for their work, like with Old Smoky, it was like, we need raw materials, we need this, like people, I think a lot of industries were struggling. So what was it like kind of coming in, with that? Tell me about some of those initial hardships and obstacles.
Yeah. So I think overall starting a career in the middle of COVID was absolutely insane. Graduating in COVID, everything was just crazy. And I talk about this a lot with my friends, that we all had very similar situations, like friends that I've made in Dallas, that a lot of us graduated, like there was no formal ceremony, and then just were thrust into the adult world. And I think like looking back on all of our lives, for most people, every single time that you had a milestone, there was some sort of like ceremony surrounding it. So like you graduate from kindergarten, go to first grade, you graduate from 8th grade, go to high school, you graduate from high school, you go to college. You kind of tie a little bow on it, and then like your next phase of life starts. And so because my whole like peer group didn't get that, I really struggled with like being just thrust into the workforce. The last 3 months of my college were just online. I had not a lot of structure at all. Everything kind of felt like silly and fake because, you just finished college online. This is kind of crazy. And then I started full time at my job, fully online. I'd moved to a brand new city. I'd lived in Dallas previously, but like when you move, I lived in Dallas. It was just a crazy, crazy flip. I was living with one girl that I'd known before, another girl that I'd never met. We had some mutual connections, and we ended up being roommates. And she ended up being one of my like closest friends. She was at my wedding. Shout out Natalie. But so she and I, we're basically coworkers. We had worked at two different companies, and it was just a crazy, crazy shift. So that's kind of my personal like feelings around starting a career during COVID. I lost out on a lot of like core, I think, development in those times because I
Yeah.
wasn't getting that face-to-face interaction with my coworkers. It all just felt kind of fake, like doing my emails and stuff online. It was
Yeah.
just weird, like working in my bedroom, like constantly. Also, my office was
It
inside of
feels more like a webinar than it does a job.
yes, exactly. My office was inside of my closet. Which shout out my sister Samantha. She came to visit me and set me up with that so I could have like a little bit of separation in my very small bedroom. So it was a huge, huge adjustment. I think it took me like 6 to 8 months before I really was like, okay, no, this is my job. I'm a functioning adult. This is a job. On the corporate side of that, because of the industry that I work in, Frito-Lay is a very large snack food company. For those that don't know, Frito-Lay, our core brands are Cheetos, Doritos, Tostitos, all of those things. And so my job security was great because they kind of, their statement was, you know, in hard times, chips are like people's meals, like that's everyone's dinner, and fun times, their snacks or tailgate outings and things like that. So, but we all had the struggle of, you know, the unknown of everything. Like we
Yeah.
didn't know about supply and things like that. I was really on the upstream of the supply chain in my first role. So I didn't have a lot of like the execution issues where we couldn't make things happen, but it was a very, very crazy, crazy environment to start a career in, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I I loved what you said about just like kind of relating to like your roommates and stuff like that. One experience that I've kind of found for people our age is that we deal with a lot of like imposter syndrome in the
Mhm,
corporate world, and I would think that especially your experience of like going in and you're immediately kind of thrust into the remote work of it all without ever having met your coworkers in
mhm,
person and stuff. How did you deal, and how do you continue to deal with some of those imposter syndrome elements? I'm sure that I think it's especially prevalent in like corporate kind of roles.
mhm.
So I wonder what that's like to you.
I suffer from it every single day. I always feel like I'm not doing a good enough job, and I don't know what I'm doing, and people think that I'm incompetent and all that stuff. I don't know that I can say I've figured out a good way to cope with that. My personal like I need feedback from people, so when I can have someone tell me like, "Oh, you did a great job on this," that's really validating for me. Also, when I hear other people talk about their imposter syndrome, that is a big relief for
Mm.
me. For an
Oh, sure.
example, there's a girl that's one of my peers, and she just seems like she is so put together and always knows the answer and always like is such a hard worker, and she feels like she's doing all the right things. And she and I were passing each other on the stairs one day, and she was walking with a friend, and I overheard her saying like, sometimes I just have no idea what I'm doing, and I feel like everybody knows it, and I feel like it like I'm so behind and I don't know what people are talking about and all that stuff. And I was like, that just lifted a weight off of me. I know that like overhearing her kind of venting to a friend just made me be like, okay, everybody feels like I do. Nobody really knows what's going on. And you kind of tiptoe a fine line between wanting to fake it till you make it and like wanting to, you know, put on a front that you like you can do this. And I think it's kind of hard to do when everybody got the grind set people and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and the people that only speak in like corporate buzzwords
Right.
and all that. So it's definitely a challenging environment, and I do struggle with that. I honestly, if I get like written feedback, I save it and I have a little folder that I put it in. So sometimes if I'm like really feeling like I'm not good at my job, I will go and read those and be like, no, I can do my job. I know what I'm doing. And try to like validate myself because it's not everyone's going to give you on the pat on the back is what I've learned.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I I like what you said too about not necessarily celebrating that someone was struggling like
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
same way, but just at least feeling like it. okay, I'm not the only one
Mhm.
that is extremely helpful.
Yes.
But yeah, I I barely missed like this experience by like 1 year of like
Mhm.
the initial kind of um I don't know, like diving into that corporate experience like right
Mhm.
away in the midst of COVID. And I was doing like frontline work,
Mhm.
um, but it was in East Tennessee, and there was a lot of like people like still traveling and stuff.
Mhm.
So um, yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about it. Um, it's another thing that I feel have kind of identified as an experience that people our age go through is that they don't really know what their friends do.
Mhm.
They know they're like, oh yeah, like that. They work for this company, but
Mhm.
I don't know. So do you feel like people know what you do when you say supply chain or whatever?
I think if I say, like, general supply chain, they're like, "Oh, okay, logistics." I think a lot of people assume that that's, like, transportation or, like, 3PL kind of, like, trucking. That's the initial thought that people think with supply chain.
Mhm.
I think even in my, like, work group, there's people like, supply chain within the realm of Frito-Lay is such a massive entity. All of my peers were all in like supply chain. We all have the title supply chain analyst. But we all do such crazy, crazy different things. Um, and so I think I try not to get too in the weeds when I tell people what I really do. I try to keep it pretty high level because no one really cares that much anyway, unless you're,
Sure.
you work with me. But like, you don't need to know the ins and outs of my day to day, just the general like on the Dips platform, I schedule production, all that kind of stuff. That's like tangible. But it is like I don't have any idea what my friends do. I have a friend that like works in finance, and I can make some assumptions. I have a friend that is in a teacher.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty good grasp there, but like general like some of these other things, I'm like, I have no idea what your job entails. So,
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. I yeah, no, that it's funny to think about. I've just seen that as a trend. It always like
mhm.
makes me laugh when I see people like
Have like
talking about that.
PowerPoint notes.
That it's like that they're best friends like
Yes.
in each other's weddings. They're like,
Mhm.
I have no idea.
Yeah. No, my two closest friends, one is in grad school. And if she listens to this, she's gonna kill me because I cannot remember what title her like degree stuff is. She's
Yeah.
very, very smart, and she is doing research, clinical psychology research.
Okay.
I think. Sorry, Kristen. And then my other friend, Lauren, she is um, in, she works for a trucking company who like sells in like truck parts and stuff. Yeah, but I don't know what she does.
Right.
Marketing,
Yeah.
something,
Could be.
business management, something. So
Yeah.
sorry if
Well,
you guys watch this, Lauren and Kristen. I love you. You don't know
yeah.
what I
Well,
do. That's okay.
yeah, Kristen and Lauren, you can further clarify your position,
Yes.
and kind of share with us more specifically in the comments of wherever you're listening to this, if you
Mhm.
are. But yeah, I've just noticed that it's always been a funny thing to me.
Mhm.
Um, so one thing about like living with you and having like stayed with you like over
Mhm.
like these extended trips, sometimes like your work schedule is that you are not taking a full vacation for you're here. There's
Mhm.
remote work to be done anyway. But I've seen how packed your day is. So how do you go about managing your time? I feel like that's a really can be a really challenging thing when it's like meeting after meeting after meeting.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I don't know that I'm the poster child for time management, but in an ideal world, my like the best like formula that I have found out for time management, if I have just a really crazy meeting day, is nothing groundbreaking, but I just make a to-do list on my OneNote, and I kind of have like check boxes and stuff. And a system that I found that has worked for me is I have it by priority first, so the top things that need to get done, and then the lesser things. And then instead of like putting a ton of pressure on myself to make sure that everything gets done that day outside of the priority items, anything that like doesn't get wrapped up by like 4 or 5, it's shifting to the top of the to-do list for the next day, depending
Yeah.
on priority, those kinds of things. So that's the best system that I've found. Something for me is I do need to take a lot of breaks. Unless I can get really zoned in to things, something that helps with like my focus is I like to I have a playlist that I call Working Girl, and I put that on, and it kind of, I think I've like also Pavloved myself into being like, this playlist means focus.
Yes.
I've
Yeah.
never changed any songs on it. I don't add new songs. It's always the same songs, and it is like, it just helps me focus, which helps me manage my time. I personally get distracted very easily, especially when I'm working from home. So making sure that I stay on top of it, it does take a lot of work. I am my worst manager. I cannot manage my own time. If you told me I need this by X time, done, I'm on it. But like if I tell myself
Ooh,
you
yep.
should do this by like 9 a.m., not a chance. Like unless I work the best under pressure. If I have too much time, for some reason I can't get it done. It's my executive dysfunction. So time management, not my strong suit, but I do work on it.
Yeah, I think that we're very similar in that way. I just recently like started physically writing things down. I've
Mhm.
like dabbled in it before, but never really like stuck with it for
Yes.
a while. And I've been like
Mhm.
literally
Yes.
like crossing off like,
Yeah.
but like even just adding in like they're not all work related items.
Mhm.
Like sometimes they're like okay, these are the things that I need to do for like okay,
Mhm.
I need to rent this suit for the wedding,
Mhm.
and I need to make sure the recycling goes out and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like really like freeing to kind
Mhm.
of like see the things literally like crossed out. And it sounds
Yeah.
so basic, but it is. I don't know. It's really helpful in that way.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Even
go.
sometimes I'll write things on my to-do list that I already did, so I
Yeah.
can
Oh,
check 'em.
yes, dude. Well,
Yeah.
I feel like it's a momentum thing. It's of
Yes.
like if I have like worked through like 3 things, but there's like one of
Mhm.
them that I've been kind of eyeing and avoiding, like one
Yes.
particular email in
Mhm.
my inbox that I like don't want to open and answer because I've
Mhm.
like made it to be a big thing in my head. If I can
Yes.
cross off like 3 other things first, I'm like, okay, it's
Yes.
time.
I
Yeah.
have to get some momentum going. And you know what the most frustrating thing is too, is that, like, it's always those things that seem so big that take, like, 5 minutes.
Mhm.
For example, I hope no cops are listening to this, but I my tags were expired for over a year on my car because it just seemed like so overwhelming to go get them changed because
Yeah.
I had moved location, so my license was attached to my old address, and so I needed to update my license to then update my registration, and I was like, that's gonna take ages. And I finally one day, a year later, decided to do it. It literally took me 2 minutes to change my address on my license, and they just mailed me a new one. And then I just walked into the like DMV or whatever office, and that took me 3 minutes. I handed a lady a piece of paper. She printed out a new registration, and she's like, she's like, did you get any tickets like over the year? And I was like, no. And she's like, are you sure? And I was like, pinky swear I did not. And she was
Yeah.
like, you're one lucky girl, and just handed me my new tags. But it's stuff like
Amazing.
that where I work things up so much in my head and make them seem so overwhelming, and then they end up really not taking that long. So that's something I try to be better about. But I need the momentum. Like I do a couple little things, and I'm like, I can tackle the big thing, which
Yeah,
is big.
100%. Yeah, I think there is real value in writing down something that you've already done just so that you can
Yes.
cross it off
Mhm.
to say like, all right,
Mhm.
I'm a person that can manage these things and
Yes.
I can build myself up to the thing
Yeah.
that seems really hard. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're Tabby and I still have Tennessee licenses and we're going this week.
Yeah. Oh, fun.
To
What a cute little
yeah,
date.
yeah, it's a fun little date. My parents are watching the girls, and we're going like right when the office opens up and stuff. So, um, yeah, it's a very relevant
Mhm.
experience for the tags and
Yeah.
whatnot. Tell me that I this is another thing that I've noticed about like corporate work is a lot of times people have a certain level of productivity or skill. Um, and their management team kind of identifies that in them, and then from there they're thrust into like leadership roles. How Tell me about that for you. What's it like working on a team or doing any kind of like leading on the team
Mhm.
that you're on? Tell me about that.
So a lot of roles that I end up like finding myself in outside of my like core job are I work really closely with the intern program every summer. So because I was an intern, it's something I'm really passionate about. So when I started full time in 2020, I really wanted to get involved there, and I started off like on a committee. So we kind of have a hierarchy within our intern program. There are committees, committee leads, the intern council program leads, and then a steering committee who are just higher ups, that kind of the powers that be. And so I started off on a committee, and then pretty quickly got thrust to being a committee lead. I did that for 2 years, and then this past summer I was the like on the full intern council lead with two other peers of mine. And it's things that I don't necessarily seek out, but I think because I'm passionate about it and I do have like a I'll do it kind of attitude about things, and I find it very like fulfilling personally. I usually find myself in those roles, and those like planning roles, the kind of fun roles, engaging things like that. I wish that could be my full-time job because I am very passionate about recruitment and things like that, and like career development and young adults, as I am also a young adult. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that, on like an actual team basis, I usually find myself in like the fun committees, and I'm planning the like extracurricular events for like our team offsites, or I'm trying to plan like group bonding things and just trying to make work fun because I think we can get pretty like in the weeds on stuff. And I usually just find myself being the one that volunteers to plan those things, or I get asked to plan stuff like that. I did on my previous team, I did a personality assessment for all of our team members, which is a super fun and engaging way for us to like do some team bonding and team building activities. But those are kind of leadership roles that I find myself in, like outside of my kind of core activities that I do, that like actually really fulfill me in my like work and just make working for the company a little bit more fulfilling because I feel more engaged.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I like that too because that is touching a little bit on the employee engagement, like people ops kind of like area, and it's cool to see that you kind of adopt and own some of those things. When I think traditionally in a lot of places, like that's it like falls to HR, or if
Mhm.
like if their HR team's big enough, then they've got like dedicated experience, engagement, people ops
Mhm.
kind of positions. But it's I think I think it's cool when other people have that level of buy-in,
Yeah.
to kind of come in and
Mhm.
advocate for people, especially on like the development side and
Yes.
um, onboarding and whatnot.
Mhm.
That's such an important thing because you were just there.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you've got some credibility in that
Mhm.
way, especially with that
Yeah.
group, I would think.
Yeah, for sure.
So what has been I don't wanna ask, like, highlight necessarily, like, was there one, event or, like, project, like, kind of in that vein that stood out to you or that you, like, you felt that you did a really good job or was, like, just a really fun piece of, your work?
I think probably the my like favorite thing that I've done in the leadership aspect would be the personality assessment. Because that was something I just fully like took on and led and like orchestrated with my team, and got a lot of really awesome feedback on it. It was something I needed to find something that was like tangible. It didn't couldn't be too in depth because like we didn't need to go on to like why do you have this relationship with my mother. It was more of like a like
Yeah.
um why do I feel like some people who use too much punctuation in their email are being aggressive? And it's because they are a certain type of, communicator. It's more those kinds of things. It was called the DOPE assessment. I found it online, and
Nice.
ended up putting a PowerPoint presentation together, like just to high level it. But that was probably my favorite thing that I've done because it was a project that I fully owned, fully took on, and just ran with, and got like a lot of like leadership visibility. Um, I think that like specifically has been my favorite. Overall, though, I would say my work with the intern program has been my favorite. Everything that I do with that is just really fulfilling. We got like a really, really good group this past summer. And one of the most like fulfilling things at the end of it was all the thank you notes that they wrote me. I literally was like weeping at my desk with like these college kids just
That's
being
really
like,
nice.
like you have impacted my career so much and stuff like that. And like that's why I like take the time to do things like that. So I think that is very fulfilling for me. Just getting to like see the fruits of my labor like manifest physically, you know?
Yeah. No, well, and we've already identified how important that getting feedback is like for
Mm-hmm.
you. And
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
and
I'm a big
it's
words
a,
of
I
affirmation
yeah,
girly.
I feel the same. So like getting that in that instance, and then
Mm-hmm.
also, and especially for like from the interns with the handwritten notes and stuff, that's
Yeah.
such a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I I had my list of questions that I wrote down, and I've run out of them. However, I do have a question from our previous guest, Bo Miles, who also is currently in Texas.
Oh,
Um, so love, and he also started in Tennessee, like lived and grew up
oh,
in
cool.
Tennessee, and now lives in Texas. So what are you more motivated by, fear or love?
Oh, oh.
Thank you, thank you both for the question.
Thanks, Bo. That's tough, man. I think I would. Oh, I don't want to cop out and say both. Okay, I might have to dissect this a little bit. I think in general, it might be fear of being loved. Maybe is that a
Oh,
crazy thing to
interesting.
say? Like, I care about people, and I want them to care about me too. Maybe so but gosh, this is getting too deep. Maybe maybe fear just in general. Like I am an anxious person, so fear of doing the right thing, fear of not the fear of failure, fear of messing up, fear of losing someone, those
Sure.
kinds of things. So I think there are hints of love there, but I do think that fear drives a lot of what I'm doing. And fear sounds like an aggressive word. I think it's just more like worry and anxiety drive a lot of what I do.
Yeah.
I wish that was not the case, but I think that that is probably the most like truthful answer to Bo's very deep question. Maybe I'm making it too deep. Bo, I'm gonna have a lot to think about tonight. That's tough. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Bo, thank you very much for the question. I like your answer. Yeah, it's I think that it's kind of true too, in that like a lot of those are like related and
Mhm.
intertwined. Of yeah, it's a I don't know, good question. Um,
Your turn to
any
answer.
that's I don't know, I don't know. Um, I think you're right in that it does depend on the circumstances a little. Like sometimes the thing that's like motivating or driving me is like I want to do something well,
Hmm.
not because I want to do it well, but because I want to be perceived
Yeah.
as doing it well.
Yeah.
Which I think is the wrong way to go
Hmm.
about it, but I can't help it.
Yeah.
No, I can't help
Yeah.
it. I can choose to grow.
Yeah.
But 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 in some other ways, I feel like some of the more like service kind of oriented aspects of myself, like those are based out of like
Mhm.
love and like caring for the
Yes.
people
Hmm.
that I'm around and stuff like that. Kind of setting them up for success
Hmm.
and stuff. So I don't know. I think it depends.
Yeah, I do think it
Uh,
depends. Like I think some things, like things that I'm doing for Han or things that I'm doing for friends, like those are motivated out of love. I think some decisions that I make, I suffer clinically from FOMO pretty
mm,
severely. So some decisions I make are based on the fact that like I don't want to miss out on something
yeah,
because I'm scared of what will happen if I am not at this certain event and things like that. So I think it is very intertwined for me personally. I don't think that I can separate those super easily. Um, which is what I'm working on for some personal growth.
nice, excellent. Well, great conversation starter,
Yeah.
bro. That was I got to hand it to you there. Um, well,
Jeez.
what is a question that you want to ask our next guest?
Mine doesn't feel as like emotionally intelligent as that one. I
No.
would like to ask for the next guest to tell their most embarrassing work story.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And their deepest, darkest secret.
Nice. Well, I'm gonna keep it short and just
Okay.
stick to the work story, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I typed out Bubs when I was like saying who the
Yeah.
question came from. Yeah, that's good. Well, before we wrap it up, any parting thoughts or questions, things that are kind of bubbling up for you that you'd like to get out before we close it down?
No, I do have a question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite part about being a dad?
Favorite part about being a dad is I have always loved seeing the aspects of their personalities that are just basic and
Mhm.
fundamental to who they are, regardless of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Just seeing the ways that they light up, the things that they care
Mhm.
about, without any prompting, without any outside pressure. They just like this is what they're about, and it's always been that way.
Mhm.
It's a very cool thing to see because so much of parenting um, is fostering and kind of nurturing,
Mhm.
but then so much of it too is just like letting it be.
Mhm.
So that's a fun thing. I've loved that. Yeah,
Who's your favorite?
it's my favorite. You, it's a you're my favorite child.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That's fair.
yeah.
I wish can you go wake up the girls and bring them down for the podcast?
No, I probably
When are
won't
you
do
going to
that.
interview them?
I don't know. I always think of what's that guy I see on TikTok a lot, Zeth.
Oh, he's got
Yeah,
the
and
hair.
he
Yeah.
interviews his daughter, and
Yes.
they both have really curly,
The
bouncy,
hair. Yes.
fun
Yeah.
hair. Yeah. No, I don't know. Maybe when they're old enough, we'll do like some
Mhm.
short
Yeah.
clips, like
Yeah.
asking them what they think, what they want to be
Yeah.
when they grow up, that kind of
Oh,
thing. That
that'd be
could be
cute.
fun. That
Yeah.
would be fun.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I believe that's going to wrap it for episode 43 of When I Was Your Age. We really appreciate you guys making it this far. If you have listened to the entire episode and you're hearing my voice right now, I think that you should go and give us a comment on the socials with a chip emoji. I don't know if there's a chip emoji actually. You might know it. Is there a chip emoji
You
or
know
anything
what? I have no
kind of
idea. I
related?
haven't really looked.
I feel like there should be like a chip and a
Chip.
dip situation.
Maybe.
I'm
There
not
might
going to
be.
look it up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look it up. Well, if you go and you search through your emojis and you find one that you feel kind of matches with the Frito-Lay theme of it all and chips, go put it on the Instagram post. We would really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.